televidente, espero que estás disfrutando de nos diálogo que está sumamente interessante. Me quer quem está pensando de abrir negócio of kuta den business kaba, vou por sim algo seguro for de invitado não conhecem agora aqui. Richard, we're going to continue, and we were actually having a remark with. I have noticed it then that a lot of large companies are the ones who emphasize in a SWOT analysis. But when you're a small company, you don't even think about it.
Well, but small businesses should think about that because any business, regardless of size, regardless of where they're located, has something in every single category of that SWOT analysis: strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. So what we need to do is look at every one of those, because that's how we really grow for our future, and that is understanding what the strengths are and emphasizing those strengths, making those weaknesses that we consider to be competitive deficiencies, improving upon those, capitalizing on untapped opportunities, and be ready for any threats to minimize the potentially negative effect if a threat does materialize. So regardless of size, every business has something in that category, but any small business can do a SWOT analysis. All we need to do is take that piece of paper and divide it into 4 sections, or get a whiteboard. And the beautiful part about doing a SWOT analysis is it doesn't have to be done, and it should not be done all at one time, but we can sit down and spend an hour doing a SWOT analysis, and we put it aside, and then in a week we pick it up again, because a SWOT analysis is a work in progress. Strengths and weaknesses and opportunities and threats are always changing in the business. So we don't want to just do it one time and put it away. But then what I see that is really beneficial, and that's when owners gather their employees around, if they have employees, and they get the input from other people. They get input even from their colleagues, from their spouses, to find out from another viewpoint what are our strengths and weaknesses, so we know what to work on.
Okay, great. I'm going to ask you about innovation. Because you see, what I see sometimes here, and I'm going to talk locally, we like to kind of copycat. You're doing a business, Lei is doing great. I guess I'm going to do that. What would you say? What would you recommend on actually innovation and being creative?
Well, I think, first of all, I think that has improved a lot in the last couple of years, especially since we have a trend of young entrepreneurs starting off from school, as Leo mentioned. As a young entrepreneur myself, or the school system has taught us that you have a degree and you go to
work for somebody.
For somebody.
Yeah.
And the other option, that's not taught at school. It's barely mentioned. And I think if we want to start with innovation, we need to start there in our schools, education, starting to give them tips and skills that will give them that roadmap towards not only thinking that you have to work for someone, but that you can also start something innovative as well. So I think that's the key thing.
Okay, great. Leo, would you say that we have a lot of young entrepreneurs here on the island? You just mentioned it, so I said, let me ask that.
Well, I don't know if we have that many, but we do have a lot, and they are very active and very eager to do things. And I wholeheartedly agree with Leo that we should do more about our educational system, because if we prepare our youngsters better for the economy of the future, actually it's the current economy already, they are better prepared to do things the new way. For instance, we have a lot of most businesses start up old school, and then if they survive, then in the first years already, they see themselves obligated to adapt, to become aware and integrate digital systems within their operations, etc. While you see new kids doing that from the first moment on. So in that sense, they are more competitive off the bat immediately, and I think that that's a good sign, and it applies to any business. These innovations are not only for new kinds of businesses; those niche markets exist, but it's very, very important that that innovation starts growing in all sectors of the economy.
Yes, I see you want to react to
I
that.
do. You know, one of the things that we might emphasize here in Aruba that can help out the whole business climate and the economy, there's actually a distinction between a small business owner and an entrepreneur. And you had mentioned, well, so many businesses get started because someone says, well, I would like to just copy that business. That individual is really not, in the true sense, an entrepreneur. An entrepreneur is doing something not only better, but doing something different. And that's how we can really grow businesses and get new businesses started in Aruba, by not just emphasizing let's have more small business ownership, but let's have true entrepreneurship. How do we do something that is a little bit different from what you're doing and a little bit different from what you're doing, rather than going head to head with the competition? What we want to do is to beat the competition by being better and different.
You know, I have a philosophy that I say, you know, you have to be kind of innovative and offer something that nobody else offers. But by doing that, it becomes very dynamic. It's not something that is static. Oh, I have my business and that's it. I think we have to be proactive and think ahead and think with creativity, because otherwise it comes to a point where you stagnate. On that question, I mean, what have you noticed here on the island? Because it's one thing starting a business, the other thing is maintaining the business. Lay.
Well, I think with the globalization and the increased use of internet and social media, I think it's almost inevitable not to be innovative. You need to be innovative in order to keep up with the competition and to keep up actually with yourself and what you want to add. And as Rachel mentioned, if you're truly entrepreneur, you want to make a difference. It's not only, and I might say this, it's not only about the revenue sometimes, and the part of entrepreneur, it's a little bit more about, you know, how can you add value to the world, and that's the bottom line.
You know, based on that, I like to emphasize on this one, because a lot of times people focuses are only on the balance sheet and actually what is the profit. But my point is, what about if you start with passion? Because there comes times, and we've noticed them in the economy of this last years in worldwide. You have to have more than just good ideas. And what would you say, Richard, that is needed in order to not only stay in business, but actually thrive?
Well, as you mentioned, we all need that passion. Most small business owners and entrepreneurs, they have that passion, but we also need to make sure that that passion gets passed down to any employees. So those employees have the same passion. So they're all salespeople for the company. They all want to make sure that every customer is satisfied in any way possible. But I use the terminology all the time that you used a minute ago, and that is being proactive rather than being reactive. We need to always be looking into the future. What can we do to make our business better? What can we do to make it a little bit different? What can we do to satisfy our customers so they have a good experience and they return to us? Because that's what actually grows and creates a long-term sustainable business. It's not prospects coming in and customers going out, but it's customers repeating their buying experience.
Loyalty. It's how to, you know, there is a point where I'm going to also go into it, which is a lot of what I've noticed here on the island, and you should correct me. We don't make actually the employees, it's like we don't make them part of the business. It's like I am the owner and you are the employee, and there is not this participative management, and it's not involving the employee. And I'm going to ask you, Leo, because I want you to give me the local climate here. How much do we, let's say, how much do we actually implement participative management?
Way too little. I think it's also lacking in other things. When you want to do something well, it's all about passion. Whether it's sports or a religion or anything you do, and with businesses it's not different. You have to do it with passion, and passion doesn't mean that you do it on your own with passion, but it has to include everybody who is working with you. And I think that's one of the main focus points I think that we should do in the years to come to make entrepreneurs more aware of that they have a team there working for them, and not just them being the employer and them being the employees, because it only leads to conflicts, because when you have this attitude of I'm the employer and you are just the employee and do your job and go home and don't bother me, they will do exactly that.
Exactly.
They will just do their job minimally. They want to collect their wages at the end of the month, and period. And you cannot have a thriving business with a setup like that.
Okay. Richard, one last question on this, because I have also a philosophy that I learned many years ago, which was people service profit. And a lot of people have actually profit as number one, and actually the people right at the bottom. Now, how important is it to educate, to train your employees?
Oh, there's no question. Well, first of all, what we have to realize, and that is an employee is the greatest asset of any company, any business, because without employees, we're not going to be able to allow our businesses to operate. But the owner cannot be the face of that business to every customer. It's the employees, whether they are answering the phone, whether they're selling, whether they're in the back room producing. Employees are our greatest assets. So we need to engage employees. We need to excite employees. We need to, again, as Leo said, make them feel that they are part of the company. It's what's called employee buy-in, and it's so much easier for us to accomplish not just mediocre results, but great results when all of the employees feel like, well, they are part of the organization. Have meetings, have training. So many times we hire employees and they're destined to fail because we don't train the employee. So really one of the most important things for small business owners, I think, when they have not had any employees, and then it's time that they hire employees, that they understand how to do it the right way.
Okay, great. Now, you've been into this local atmosphere, and what kind of businesses do we have? Now, there is a product that I say we can start, which is made in Aruba. How many companies are working towards that goal, to have products locally made and actually marketed?
Well, you have those ideas lingering somewhere, but the reality is that sometimes because it's an innovative idea, especially agriculture, for example, when they have to go and get funds, in Aruba we have a system that you need to have a certain equity, for example, and it's a very risky business, agriculture. So they get this door closed, and that's when it becomes minimal. Those people that have those ideas, they don't start up off the ground because they don't have any other example B that they can say, you know, that business worked, but they are not getting the financing either. So it's difficult, but you have to be creative as well nowadays to get your funds as well. So if we rely to the traditional financing, business loans, then there is a likelihood that you will encounter those kind of things.
Okay. Now, Leo, I have one for you, which, you know, if we think about producing products locally and we can market it, because we can offer something to the world, and I know a lot of people don't think that, there's got to be something made easy for the entrepreneur to actually can sell their product. And I'm going to be very specific, because I know that here on the island we cannot sell anything locally to anybody outside, because there is one system, and I'm going to call the system, which is PayPal. So if I have a product locally, even I have asked people that produce CDs, you know, music. I mean, how do you market your music outside of Aruba? Is there a way that people can buy your product? And if I have it made in Aruba, how can I sell my product to the outside world?
Well, there are two things, and that is what would you like to produce to sell? That's one thing, and the other thing is what you mentioned, the international financial system. I think that this last one is the easiest one, because I think that five years from now, the commercial banking system is becoming irrelevant, because a lot of people are going to be paying online through internet, and not through their banks anymore. So that's something that it will just impose itself internationally. So let's focus on the other part. What can you do? If you want to do something viable in Aruba, local production, there are certain niche markets that you can consider. Firstly, for instance, we don't make so many local souvenirs. We have a huge tourist industry, but we import really mediocre products from other islands, and that's not really the way to go when you have 1 million tourists hanging around every year. So we can improve a lot there. The other thing is that having 1 million people here for a week or so, that creates a great basis for small agricultural businesses that you can even run on in the backyard of a normal house here in Aruba. And the only thing that we need really to solve is the access to cheap water. That's one thing. And the financing is really, yeah, something to be dealt with. But the one thing you have to consider is this: most hotels and restaurants, and that is something you see around the Caribbean, they are used to import their things from very secure supply lines, mostly from the United States. So no hotel, no restaurant will team up with you if you can only deliver some specific vegetables a couple of times a year, because they need a constant stream coming in every week. So what are the solutions? We need people to cooperate, not old-fashioned way in an association or cooperative, but to share these things, to have partnerships and have a contract together with as suppliers, and then team up, plan their production so that they can deliver year-round to certain companies, to certain restaurants or hotels, and then you can build up a reliable business. I refer again to the famous Aruba mushrooms. You see them each and every week in all major supermarkets, and they also cater directly to most important restaurants in Aruba. That's one business that can have the supply year-round within one small business. That's very nice. But for some other products, you need to team up and have shared contracts to build up that supply line. And that means that you have to cooperate and not only see the other guy that is producing the same product as a competitor, but also as a possibility to team up
an ally
and make things thrive for both of you.
Okay, thank you very much for this wonderful interview. Thank you very much, Richard, for being here. Thank you, Lei, and thank you, Leo. Televidente, nós vamos para pausa e vamos back.